do like a quick review of like the main stuff. I know someone put in the chat like decorators or something, that I'm not too familiar with. But from what I've heard from like other people in the past, he hasn't asked decorator on the first exam, so I'm not entirely sure. Unless anyone else has any different experiences. I guess Adam, you took him last semester. Did he ask decorator on the first exam? Hello?
Who's Adam?
Well,
Mm,
I'll say that
Musashi?
yeah, there definitely was one on decorators. I don't remember what it was, but he did ask. There was a not in the summer semester. It was the spring semester.
Oh, so you took him before too?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So let me pull my iPad real quick. So yeah, I will go over like the basic stuff like args, quargs, lambda functions, list comprehensions. The decorator stuff again, I'm not too familiar with, but we can review that as well. Let me just bring up the notes for myself real quick.
Really quick. So like on the exam, is it just gonna be like coding questions, or is it like what type of questions does he ask, and like how does he expect us to solve them out of curiosity? This is mostly
That
directed towards you, Adam, because you took the course.
yeah, that'd be a question for them.
Mostly coding questions.
So he wants us to write code then, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it like in tens, or is it?
No, it's like leak code easies.
Okay.
Yeah.
About sort of.
All right. So I know someone was asking about like parameter questions first, so I'll go over that. Then we'll do lambda functions, and then we'll do list comprehensions. So with parameters, or with arguments, we have many different types. That's weird. I don't know what happened. We have many different types. The first type are positional. Right. This means that the order that you, or I guess the position that you pass them in with to a function, they matter, right? So, for example, let's say I have this function called func, func, and then let's say it takes the parameters a, b, and c. And let's say I'm passing them in positionally, right? So I call func. Then the first item that I pass in is going to go to A. Second item that I pass in is going to go to B. And third item I pass in is going to go to C. So if I pass in 1, 2, 3, 1 is going to go to A, 2 is going to go to B, and 3 is going to go to C. Right. Additionally, since we didn't specifically say that they have to be positional, they can be either positional or they can be what's it called? Keyword arguments. So that's our other option. Keyword arguments. And so what that means is that when you pass in to the function your values, you specify which variable it's going to go into, which obviously you need to know what the name of the parameters are before doing that. So in this case, let's say I say A is equal to 2, B is equal to 3, and C is equal to 1. That would obviously mean that 2 goes to A, 3 goes to B, and 1 goes to C. But the good part about this is that it's kind of like the opposite of positional, where with keyword you can place them anywhere. So I could put like B in the first position, I could put like C in the second position, and I could put A in the last position. And then still, if I do this, 1's going to go to A, 2 is going to go to B, and 3 is going to go to C. Okay. All right. So those are positional and keyword arguments. And now you're able to force positional arguments with the slash symbol. What the slash symbol says is saying, okay, anything to the left of the slash signal.
What bridge did you need to add?
What? What?
Yes. Samurai, your mic's
I can
unmuted.
hear you, by the way.
Yeah, what happened? Okay. All right. So yeah, anything to the left of the the division sign, or I guess just the slash. That means that everything but to the left of that has to be positional, right? So if I were to say, let's say I put a slash sign right here, and then let's say I write some more. So let's say C and D. It means that here A and B must be positional, right? Meaning they cannot be called by passing in keywords. They must be called in the first and second position, because this is in the first position, this is in the second position. Okay. Some example of this is, let's say I put 1, 2. Obviously 1's going to go to A, 2 is going to go to B, and then after that we see we have C and D. These aren't to the left of the slash, right? So they don't have to be positional, but we can have them. Actually, sorry. Yeah, these aren't forced positional, so these could be passed as keywords if we wanted to. So we could say like D is equal to 3 and C is equal to 1. Right? Now,
Wait,
I'm not.
why aren't those positional in this situation?
What do you mean?
So I know A and B are positional, right? Because you wrote 1 and 2, right? And that automatically assigns them to A and B, right? But how come after the slash you can write D is equal to 3 and C is equal to 1?
Because what this is saying is that anything before the slash must be positional, but afterwards, after the slash, those parameters are keyword.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Actually, I'm not entirely sure if they're forced to be keyword or they're optional. I'm not I don't know if someone can correct me on this, but I'm not entirely sure if you can do like 3, 2 and have that work. Maybe someone could double check that. But all I know is that for the slash, anything before the slash must be positional. Let me just double check that, because I know I went over a practice question like that. Okay, I think they are able to be positional as well. So, like, if you wanted to, if anything, we could double check it too. Just so, because I know we'll probably get a question like that on the exam. So let me just.
Did he send an email to us?
What?
He sent
No,
an email to me?
this is something else.
Oh, okay.
So let's say I say def func, and let's say A B slash C D, and then I say can C and D be passed positionally, and then we check. Yes, in the function, yeah, so they can. So if I go back here, yep, they give an example too. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is valid. 1, 2, C, C3, D4. That's valid. And 1, 2, 3, D4 is valid. But we cannot do this. We cannot do because remember, if you remember, keywords can be declared anywhere in the function call, you cannot do, like, let's say the d is equal to 3, 1, 2, 3. This doesn't work because, again, these are forced positional. So the first parameter must be A and the second parameter must be B. We see that there's a D there, right? So obviously this doesn't work. Something else that doesn't work is, let's say we have, ignoring the slash stuff, but let's say we have some function. We say D is equal to 3, and let's say we pass in D again, D is equal to 2. This does not work. You can't have keywords repeat. Okay? All right.
So the second one doesn't work either, right?
Yeah, the second one doesn't work.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, so that was forcing positional arguments, but you can also force keyword arguments. The way you force keyword arguments is with the asterisk, where we're saying anything after the asterisk, they're forced to be keyword arguments. So let's say I say def func A, B, C, star, D, E. What this is saying is we're taking in 5 parameters, A, B, and C, but D and E are forced to be keyword, right? So, for example, let's say we have, let's say we call func, we pass in the values for A, B, and C, so 1, 2, and 3. And then for the last two, we have to have position or keywords. Let's say I say E is equal to 4 and D is equal to 5. Notice how I didn't have them in the same order that they show up here because they're keyword arguments, right? So they have to be keyword arguments. Another example, let's say we have func E is equal to 4, D is equal to 5. Notice that we used up the first two slots, right? Since we used up the first two slots, then that kind of throws off the order of A, B, and C. So we must have A, B, and C at screen. Okay, that's fine. We must have A, B, and C be keyword arguments as well. Right, so A is equal to 1, B is equal to 2, C is equal to 3. Okay, but that's just how you force keyword arguments, where anything to the right of the asterisk must be a keyword argument. Okay. Now, let's get rid of this. Now, with positional and keyword, we can also take an arbitrary amount of positional and keyword functions, right? Or sorry, not functions, parameters. So we can have arbitrary positional. I'll just have pause and arbitrary keyword. Which I'm sorry about my handwriting. I'm writing on like this weird tablet now. Okay. What this means is that we can take any number of parameters, right? So let's say we have this function called func that takes in A, B, and C. Func, we pass in the values for A, B, and C, 1, 2, and 3. But then let's say we add on some extra parameters where we want it to be used within the function, but the extra parameters that we add, we don't know how many we're going to add. Let's say that could be decided dynamically within the program. Let's say that we have like some list and that's deciding it, something like that, right? Right, so let's say we end up adding some other parameters 4, 5, and 6. Now we know 1 goes to A, 2 goes to B, and 3 goes to C. Oh, Waxman just emailed us now. I'll open that up here real quick. Yeah, he said Python midterm Wednesday tomorrow at 12:05, Remsen 101. If someone can make an announcement in the Discord about that. All right. But now we see we have 4, 5, and 6. How can we capture that and have that be used within the function. That can be captured by using args, where to use args, you simply add to the end of the function of the parameters a star. And now it doesn't have to exactly be the name args. You can name it whatever you want, but the norm is just calling it args. You can call it params if you want. You can call it x if you want. Whatever you want. Star args. What this does is it takes the excess positional arguments and it passes it as a list to the variable called args. Right. So if I were to go into func and let's say I supply the code for num in args print num, that would print 4, 5, and 6 because the numbers 4, 5, 6 are within args as a list. Is it a list or a tuple? That I'm not entirely sure. I can
Right.
double check that really quickly, but I don't think it makes that much of a difference.
So
Let me see. Where is it? Okay, I think it should be over here somewhere. Args, okay. Function gives up a variable number of arguments and an asterisk is used as a prefix. Yeah, I don't see it specified in my notes. Okay, it's a tuple. Okay, yeah, so it's a tuple. I don't think that makes much of a difference though when you're working with it. So it should be fine. You're still able to like iterate over it and stuff.
So
Okay.
the idea of args is that it just takes
So yeah,
in
this
more
allows
arguments?
us to take a dynamic number of arbitrary number of parameters, right? So we don't know how many parameters we're taking in. We just know that we're going to work with them in some way.
Got you.
So a good
Okay.
example of this is, let's say we make some function called sum, right? So we're going to overwrite the current sum function, and let's say that is like we just want to take in some number of parameters. Again, we don't know how many parameters, and we want to add them up and return the result. For that, we can use args, right? Or within args, we can say like s is equal to 0 and then 4 num in args s plus equals num and then return s, right? And so if we were to pass like if we were to pass numbers 1, 2, and 3, we're going to get the result of adding up these numbers. 3 plus 2, that's 5, plus 1, that's 6. So this would give us 6. Okay. So any questions about args? Remember, arbitrary positional, it's just a single star. Forcing keyword, single star. And forcing positional, slash. And then I will say I can like put like a name here too, just to show the difference between keyword and arbitrary positional. All right. Any questions at all?
Is args considered
Right.
an arbitrary
And then
position?
similarly with I see someone's typing. Let them finish typing. Similarly with arbitrary positional. Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. Similarly with arbitrary positional, we can have arbitrary keyword. Right? Where with arbitrary keyword, again, same thing as arbitrary positional. We're just taking in an arbitrary number of keyword arguments, right? So let's say is your mic working? I don't hear you.
Yo,
Unless
hello?
oh wait, shit, my headphones are dead. Give me a second.
Bro, I was asking questions the
Yeah,
entire
give me
time.
1 second. Let me just plug them in. Give me 1 second. My headset's dead. All right. I should be able to hear you now.
Hello.
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. I had a question about the args. So it just takes in like a set amount of arguments, right? So it's not technically considered an arbitrary position. It's just an arbitrary amount of arguments.
Well, I mean, it doesn't take in a set amount. Like anytime you call that function, it could take
Mhm.
in like 7, it could take 6, it could take 5, it could take 100.
Mhm.
So that's what it means by arbitrary, where we don't know how many arguments it's going to be taking in.
Okay, so it's different from arbitrary position and keyword then.
What do you mean?
Like, I see you have arbitrary position and arbitrary keyword. So is args completely different from those two?
No, I mean they're similar. Where again, arbitrary position takes an arbitrary amount of positional arguments. Arbitrary keyword takes an arbitrary amount of keyword arguments. Right,
Okay,
so same kind of thing, but instead of passing it in as positional arguments, we're passing them in as keyword arguments.
got you. Okay.
Yep. All right. So with arbitrary keyword arguments, basically what it's doing is anytime we are, let's say, passing in some keyword argument that doesn't map to a variable within the parameters of or within the arguments of the function, we're going to store it in a dict or dictionary, right? Where the key of the dictionary is the name of the variable, and then the value is whatever the value that was passed in, right? So, for example, let's say I have this function, I'll call it f, where we have the variables a, b, and c. And then down here, I'm going to go into f. I can pass in the values of a, b, and c. So let's say I pass in 1, 2, and 3. But then over here, let's say I pass in another keyword argument. So let's say I pass in d is equal to 4, right? Obviously, there's no d here, right? So there's no mapping for this to go to. And so what we can do is we can capture any excess keyword arguments in a dictionary called kwargs. All right, so to represent kwargs, that's just 2 stars. Kwargs. Right? And again, it just stores everything as a dictionary, or stores all the excess as a dictionary. So now within kwargs, what we have is a dictionary where the first element is D and it maps to 4. Right? So for as example, let's say we do, let me get rid of these. All right, bro. Okay. So let's say I pass in A is equal to 1, B is equal to 2, and C is equal to 3. And let's say within the function, with the arguments of the function, we don't have an A, we don't have a B, we don't have a C. So those values are going to be passed to kwargs. Okay? So now within kwargs, we have a dictionary that contains a mapping from A to 1, then B to 2, and C to 3. Isn't this the same as args? No. Args is for positional arguments or positional parameters, whatever you want to call them. So it's not storing. Args stores a tuple of those values, and kwarg stores a dictionary of those values, or gives a list, whatever you want to call it. All right. So let's say within function, if I were to say like for key val in kwargs, right? And then I say print key val, what's going to print is, let me go here. What's going to print is A1, B2, C3. Okay. And that's pretty much it with quarks. It just passes any keyword values that don't have any parameters. Or sorry, that don't map to any of the arguments. Okay. Any questions about quarks? Any questions at all? Okay. Sorry, someone's adding me. All right. Okay. And yeah, just something else to also go over with parameters. You're also able to have default parameters, right? So let's say I have a function. Let's take for example the function print. So we have def print. You can list as many parameters in quarks. Okay. I don't know. So let's say within print, right? Let's say that we are taking in the values, right, as args, and then after that we have some default value. Sorry, not default values. Yeah, so we have default values. The print takes, I think, end with a default value of I think /n, or is it the other way? I think it's like this way, /n. I think, what else does it have? It has end. What are some other ones for print? I don't completely remember. If anyone remembers at all.
Like SEP.
SCP. Oh, the separator, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the default for that's just separator. I think it's just a space, right? And
Yep.
stuff like that, right? What this is basically doing is, let's say I want to print something, right? And let's say I provide some positional values, right? So let's say I pass in 1, 2, 3, right? So that's going to print the numbers 1, 2, and 3, right? Those 1, 2, and 3 values are going to be passed into args, right? Because we don't have any matching positional arguments for it to go into, right? And so, also, I should note that star values or args, that should only be put when you're at like the end of the positional arguments. So you can kind of see that here after that we don't have any positional arguments, only keyword arguments after that. But we'll go into that in a little bit. So you see how we have the parameter end, we have the parameter sep. If we don't pass those in, then end will be supplied the string /n, and sep will be supplied the string space, right? But if I were to supply instead end, and let's say I supply the value space, then end is going to ignore this and it's going to take on the space that I gave it, right? But obviously we still didn't pass sep, so sep is still going to take on that space, right? So that's pretty much what default values. If you don't pass in that specific keyword argument, it's just going to take on whatever you specified in the parameters. And yeah. Okay. Any questions about that? All right. All right. So just to kind of go over some logic really quickly with these parameter types. Let's say I have def f. Let's say I do a, b, quarks. something like this. Would something like this make sense, or would this be possible to do? Passing in A, B, quarg / D. Is this possible to do? No. Why is this not possible? Can you go over the printf statements? Yeah, I can in a bit. Quarks are always at the end. Yeah, I guess that's true. But more specifically, let's say ignoring that D, right? So kind of involve the answer with that slash there. We care about position from the left side of the... Yes, we do. Right? So remember that whatever's to the left of the slash is required to be positional. Right? So this A is positional, this B is positional, but then we have quarks here. Quarks are keyword arguments. So how are you going to require positional... How are you going to require keyword arguments to be positional? That doesn't make sense at all, right? So that would not work. But if we were to do this, would this work?
Yeah.
This would work, right? Because we're saying everything to the left of this divider, or this slash, has to be positional, right? So if we were to say if we were to say F1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 goes to A, B goes to 2, 3, 4, and 5 go into args. Okay? How would you know when arbitrary ends? That's just something the computer knows. There's no real way to... Yeah, that's just something the computer knows.
So what if you like had like A, B, and then args, and then you have the positional, and then you have quarks on the end? Like, is that possible?
I was just about to talk about that too. But yes, that is possible as well. You can do like... Right, you can do something like this, where you can say... Oh, okay, this wants to be annoying. Give me a second. Okay. You can do something like this, where you could have A, B, 3, 4, and then once you start the keyword arguments, we know that this portion's done. So we could say like D is equal to 4 and E is equal to 5. That would go into quarks and that would go into quarks. All right. You can also do... Bring this over here. If you wanted to, you can also do D, E... actually, let me do something like this instead. So this is saying, okay, everything over here has to be a keyword. D, E, something like that. This can also work, right? Where here we're saying D4, that works, that maps. E5, that works, that maps. But then let's say I pass in G6. The G6 is going to go into quarks. Okay. Wait, can you go over why quarks is problematic to the left of... Because that slash means everything to the left of it has to be positional, right? It doesn't make sense for quarks to be to the left of a positional only, I guess, indicator, because, again, positional and quarks are two different things. They don't go hand in hand. Where quarks is keyword arguments, meaning they can... If you're like a keyword argument, you can appear anywhere in the parameter, in the parameters. You aren't required to like be in a set position. Yeah. So you can have something like this: A, B, args, quargs. Correct. You can do that. Correct.
Really
sorry.
quickly, what does the single star do? It's just
The
keyword,
single
right?
star is saying everything to the right of the star must be a keyword.
Okay, thank you.
So slash is left, star is right. What was I added in? The keyword arguments after the slash is optional, right? The keyword arguments after the star is optional. You mean like D and E? Or sorry, not after the star, after the slash is optional. Because if they have default values, then they are optional. But keyword arguments themselves aren't optional if they don't have default values. Right? Yep. Okay. Can you do star star alone? No. That doesn't make sense to do. Star star is always like for that dictionary. Can you write args after quargs? No. You can't have positional arguments after keyword arguments. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Did you tell ChatGPT random question? Can you write?
Yeah, it's attached to. I have Copilot on my VS Code, that's why. So it's attached. So I don't want it to like reference my code currently. I just did a random question.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't make sense to put args after quargs. So slash isn't necessary to have if you're gonna do keyword args after positional quargs. Sorry, after positional args. Technically, yeah, but the slash just makes it so that everything to the left of it is guaranteed to be positional. But if you're gonna use, let's say, like args, then you are like you can get like, let's say you have like some malicious user that just like spams your parameters, and then you like end up getting random stuff in args. Uh, you know, you probably don't want that. So like use args when you need it. If you're not going to have a bunch of different arguments that you're going to be working with, then don't use args. If you have a set amount, then can you use slash slash? No. The slash and the star by themselves can only show up once in the parameters. Yeah. And remember, the slash itself, it's just saying that everything to the left of it must be positional. It's not saying everything to the right of it isn't positional. So I can say A, B slash D, E, or sorry, A, B slash C, D, right? I can still pass values to D and E positionally or by keywords. Same thing with star. Star is saying everything to the right of it is keywords, but that's not saying that everything to the left of the star cannot be keywords. Okay? All right. So does that make sense? Yep.
Yeah.
Any questions? What is star do? Again, star, it's just everything to the right of the star is just saying that it must be a keyword. Okay.
Do you think we can go over printf strings?
Yeah, we'll go after once we finish the parameters.
Okay, cool. This is all from like part 4 also, right? The parameter stuff?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. That's like the longest part I noticed.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. But yeah, so again, we're seeing these stars show up in the actual function declaration, right? But you can also have these stars show up when you're calling the function itself, right? So, for example, say I go over here. Oh fuck. Uh, right. So let's say I have some function. Let's call it func that takes in A, B, C, and D. Okay. And now let's say I have some list that contains what I want to put in. So let's say contains 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let me put this as a different variable name just so it's a bit better to understand. So we have L. And now let's say that I want to pass these values to func, but I don't want to have to do like L0, L1, and so on, right? So what I can do is unpacking, where I can put the letter, and then to the left of the letter, or the variable name, I put a star. And then that will unpack that and put each value from the list into corresponding positional arguments. Okay. But let's say that we only contain 3 values instead of 4. This won't work because we are missing arguments, right? So anything that we didn't supply, we have to pass in as well. So let's say I put in a 4 like that as well. So this 4 will go to the D, 1 goes to A, 2 goes to B, 3 goes to C. Okay. So that is called parameter unpacking. Okay. Now, I'm not entirely sure if you can do it with a dictionary too, like star and then the dictionary's variable. I would think that you can though. Let me just see here real quick. So what I'm saying here is, let's say I do like dic is equal to let's say I put A is equal to 1, B is equal to 2, C is equal to 3, and D is equal to 4. I'm pretty sure, which if someone can correct me, I'm pretty sure you can also call func like this, but since it's a dictionary, I believe you have to put double star like this, unless it's just 1 star. But if someone can correct me on that, that'd be great. All right. Actually, if anything, I could just look it up really quickly. So I can just say, is this allowed? If I have FF, I'll just put 2 parameters. And then let's say I have a dic contains A1, B2, and let's say I do F star dic. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So when you're working with a dictionary and you want to pass in keyword arguments that are like within some object already, you use 2 stars. But if they're just positional, you use 1 star. Okay. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah, let's say I have dic. All right.
So even though it's like a keyword situation, it doesn't matter. It still can apply, right?
Yeah, because we are saying that like specific keywords. So we're saying that the value here maps to A, the value here maps to B, the value here maps to C, and the value here maps to D. and then we pass that to the function star star, right? And that works. And then let's say we had some additional variables within this dict. Let's say we had x is equal to 6, right? Obviously, we're gonna have some error if we try just passing that in without having like a specific mapping. So we can just capture that within a quargs, and then work with that within the function too. So yeah, right.
Got you. Thanks.
So any other questions about parameters? That was pretty much what you need to know for the exam. Any questions about args, quargs, positional, keyword, default? Oh, hold on. What if you have more elements in the list than parameters? I believe. Actually, I don't want to assume. I want to say that it would break. We can actually test that really quickly, though. Let me test that right now. The fuck? Okay. So let's say we have this function called func that contains A, B, and C. Oh, sorry, I gotta indent. Okay. So we have this function called pass. Let's say I make a list and I just pass in 1, 2, 3, and 4. And let's just make sure that it's there now. Right, so we have it here. And let's just make sure that func is there. Oh, fuck. Hold on. Okay. Yeah, so now we have the function. All right. So then if I try to pass it, so if I say func star L, we see that we get an error. Right? It says takes 3 positional arguments before we're given. Right? So if we wanted to correct that, we can be like def func A, B, and C, and then we can take in some args. Right? And then from here, we can say func star L, and then now it doesn't break. So you must have the exact number of elements matching the exact number of parameters, right? Well, you can have a list that contains 2 arguments and you have a function that contains 5, right? So that if you do like star L, those elements will go to the first 2 positional arguments and then you just have to supply the last 3, right? So you can do like star L, comma 1, comma 2, comma 3. That works too. But if you don't supply those arguments, you'll get an error. Okay? Yep. Any other questions about parameters? Good? All right. So now we had questions about f strings, or sorry, printf. So printf, this is similar to how it is in JavaScript if you do JavaScript. Give me 1 second. Okay. Yeah, so in JavaScript, I believe it's like something like console.output, right? And then anytime you want to output the sum, like the value of like some variable, you would put, I think, you would just put like these like special tilde key, the $sign, and then you put like the variable in there, right? That probably makes sense to you if you know JavaScript. But in Python, let's say I have some value x, we set it equal to like 20, right? Now, let's say I want to print the value of x is 20. Obviously, if I wanted to, I can put like print the value of x is 20. Oh, sorry, not 20. X, right? Something like this works. But let's say I'm working with a bunch of different variables and I'm working like one print statement, like the example with that we did in class about like using money and stuff like that. It starts to get a bit weird, right? And just a bit hectic. So if we wanted to avoid having to put all these commas and all that things like that, we can just put the entire thing that we want to print in one string. And to do that, we use a printf statement where we just say print, and then to identify what we're doing, we put here before the string f, single comma, and then here we say, again, the value of x is, and then when we want to identify that, hey, we're using some outside variable, we're no longer in the string, we just put a curly bracket, the variable, curly bracket, right? And then this is going to evaluate that and then append it to the string for us. And then we can close off when we're done. That's pretty much it. Could you do it with double quotes? I'm not entirely sure. We can test that though. Oh, did I close it? Hold on. I've only seen it done with single, but we can try. So let's say x is equal to, oh, sorry. X is equal to 20. So like we were saying before, we could do print f x is x. Oh, sorry, I used the wrong. Should be the comma like that. X is x. Right, so we get x is 20, and then we can try with the single quotes. Sorry, the double quotes. And we see it works still too. So yeah. Just know that it's not like how it is in JavaScript, where JavaScript is the little tilde key. It's not the tilde key, it is the single comma, sorry, the single quote and the double quotes that work. Not the tilde keys. What the fuck? That was weird. Okay, yeah, I don't know why that's happening. Okay. If I want to print without f string, is it slash I know that there was something similar to that I could see. Let's see if that works. Yeah, that doesn't look like that worked. Single
What about /n?
slash n, that just goes to the next line.
Yeah, is it still possible to do it within the printf?
Let's see. Yeah.
Okay.
But let me see it maybe like that. Yeah, doesn't look like that works. I don't know if someone else has a different way to do it. You double it? Oh, like yeah, there we go. Okay. So let's say we wanted one here. We can go something like this. There we go. And yeah, that works. Okay. All right. So that is printf statements. I guess, did you have any other questions about that, Arvin?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. What about Hold on, let me go to that question. What about the greater than 60 stuff? You won't ask that on the exam, right? Oh, like the formatting? I don't know.
It's
Because
Python.
that's different from printf statements, I believe. I don't know. I guess is anyone that took him before? Did he ask those questions? Matthew, Adam. I think Adam left. Matthew, you're there. Okay. Well, our only people that know are gone. Yeah, you can add him. But yeah, from what I've heard or like seen from like past people that took it, they didn't say anything about those questions coming up. But yeah, I didn't really study them because I don't know, those questions are just kind of weird. Okay. Let me close this. All right. So yeah, those are printf statements. I guess we can talk about the other ones if when Matthew comes back he says that's you like that's a thing that's on the exam. But I do doubt it though. All right. Right. So now I guess before going into lambda function, or actually it was done beforehand. Okay. So I guess before going to lambda functions, we have to know about the sorted functions. And then we can go into lambda functions. So let's say I have some list. Let's call it L. And let's say L is equal to 3, 2, 4, 1, 5. Okay. Now let's say I have this list, but I want to know how the list looks like if it was sorted. There's two ways I can do that. I can either A, sort it, or B, just make a copy of that sorted list and sort it. And then print it. Right? So the first way, I think I asked him, he said probably not. Okay, so that's fine then. So the first way would be with the sort method. Or in other words, L dot sort or dot sort. Yeah, I don't know if you think you asked him. I'm not too sure what that means. So dot sort, what that is we're taking the actual list itself and we are sorting it. We're not returning some sorted copy or anything. We're just sorting the actual list. We're not returning anything at all. So it's incorrect to say like A is equal to L dot sort. You're not going to get anything. You're just going to get none. Okay. And then we have the sorted function. The sorted function takes the list itself and then it returns a sorted copy of that list. Right? So if I were to say X is equal to sorted L, that works, right? Because sorted L returns a sorted copy of that list. But again, if I were to say X is equal to L dot sort, that doesn't make sense. So again, this will set L equal to the sorted, so that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this over here will set X equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But L will still be equal to 3, 2, 4, 1, 5. Okay, so it doesn't affect L in any way. Is deep copy stuff coming? I don't know, but we'll go over that too because I went over it. It's pretty easy. You just import the function and then it works. Okay. All right. So these are our two functions. What if you do L is equal to sorted L? That works too if you want to do that. But there's no point in doing that. You could just do L dot sort. They both do the same thing at that point. Okay. So with both functions, sorted and sort, it still creates a new list, right? Sorted, yeah, it does create a new list. And then it sets L equal to it. But sort doesn't create a new list, it just sorts the current list. All right. So with sort and sorted, we have a couple of keyword arguments that are optional. We have reverse, right? Which what you can pass in is true or false. And false is the default, right? So if you don't pass in reverse or value for reverse, the default is automatically false. Okay. Reverse does exactly what it says it does. All it does is it swaps the it swaps the less than comparison for a greater than comparison. So that, let's say I say x is equal to sorted L, instead of getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm going to get 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right? So you just get a reversed result of what you would have gotten if you didn't put reversed. Okay? And then the next one, sort in descending order. Yep, correct. The next one is key. Now key, this takes in some one argument function, right? And you gotta kind of stay with me here now. With with key, what it does is it doesn't affect the list itself, but it applies some key that will be read by the sorted function rather than its values within the list, and compare based on those keys, right? So let's say I passed in some function that converts let's say it's a string list let's say we have a list of strings, and let's say we pass that list to a sorted function, and let's say, this list can contain uppercase strings, it can contain lowercase strings, it can contain a combination of both, but we only want to sort based on their lowercase values, right? So let's say we have the string in all caps hello in that list. We don't want to read it off as its uppercase hello. We want to read it off as, or compare with its lowercase hello. So you would pass in a function to key that just converts all of those letters within the list to lowercase, right? So again, key, it's not affecting the list itself. It's just saying, okay, anytime we do a comparison, apply this function to the current value we're looking at. Don't affect the list, just apply it. Take that value and use that value for the comparison. Okay. So I can give you an example here again with the uppercase and lowercase. Let's say I have this list L, and this list L contains like contains 2, contains 2, it contains 2, oh sorry, it contains 1. This was an example from the reading. And let's say I want to print the sorted version of this list. And let's say I want to apply the lower function. So I can grab that lower function by saying str dot lower, right? So it's something that's already been defined, right? And so again, what this is going to do is while it's doing the comparisons between the values, rather than comparing the values themselves, it's going to compare the results of applying that lower function to those values. So what it's going to print instead, does anyone know what this would print instead of capital 1 to capital 2, 1? Does anyone know what this would print? Guys, type it in the chat. 1, 1, 2, 2. That is correct. AHS soft 1. That is incorrect. Because remember, we're sorting based on lower, right? And also notice how with AHS's answer, the capital came first before the 1, then the lowercase, and then the lowercase came first before the 2, and then the uppercase. The reason for this, which I'll write down his answer here too, or her answer, 1, 1, 2, 2. The reason for this is that this sorting algorithm that is used within the sort and sorted functions, it is a stable algorithm or stable sorting algorithm, right? So what that means is that whenever you find some value within the list while sorting, and let's say those values are the same, then the order that they came in originally within the original list, they're going to stay in that order within the sorted list, right? So in this case, the 1 in all caps came first, then the lowercase 1. So here we have the uppercase 1 came first here, and the lowercase 1 came second, and then the lowercase 2 came first here, and the uppercase 2 came second here. So that's the exact same way how it is in the sorted version. Okay, because remember, they are turning into the same values because we are applying that lower function when doing the comparisons. Okay.
Can we do
So
another example of this?
Yeah, that was just one example. But I guess any questions about this example or key in general so far before I move to another example? Okay. So let's say like another example. Let's say it's stable by default. I'm not too sure what that means. Like the function itself, sort and sorted, they're both default. Or sorry, they're both stable. That's not like something you can change. It's just always stable. Right, so let's say I have like the list for -1, -2, 3, 12, -6. Okay. And let's say that I want to sort based on their absolute values, meaning ignoring the negatives. Okay. So ignoring the negatives, the result of the sorted function would be -1, -2, 3, 4, -6, 12. Right? So for each value, we want to apply the key function that just grabs its absolute value, and then we use that for the comparison. So let's say we do print let's say we do print L, and then we're going to pass in a key, which I don't know, does anyone remember the absolute value function? Is that that's within math, right? Or is that a default? Or a built-in, sorry. Just abs? Okay. So we can just put abs. And since it's a key, we're not putting the parameters or anything. we don't write that. Okay. And then again, what it's going to do is while it's doing its comparisons, instead of comparing the values themselves, it's going to apply the key function that we passed and compare the result of those functions instead without affecting the list. So what this is going to print is -1, -2, 3, 4, -6, 12. Okay. And yeah, that's pretty much it with key. Right? Any questions about this? U is equal to 1, 1, 2, 2. C is equal to sorted. It changed the order list. I'm not entirely sure what you're. Yeah. I don't know. Is that you're asking a question? I don't know if you already covered lambda functions, but you can also pass lambda functions. Okay, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do right now. I wanted to show this before going into lambda functions. Suf one, I'm not entirely sure what you're asking. When you add the reverse is equal to true in the sorted function in the list chain, well, yeah, it's gonna just rather than giving you just like the result of the sorted function, it's gonna give you the reverse version of the result of the sorted function, right? So 2, you would get it should be the capital 2 first, then the lowercase 2, then the lowercase 1, then the uppercase 1. Right? It's just this result, but reversed. So reading from right to left instead of left to right. That's all it does.
I'm saying like it does not give that. It does give like two, the capital one, and then one. Right in the chat.
Oh, sorry. Wait, hold on. Wait, reverse the list first, then sort. His list is different. Yeah, you have the incorrect list. It should be capital 1, then 2, then capital 2, then 1. Try that.
Oh my bad.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, if you notice with these key functions, obviously they are well, I mean, what we're using right now are predefined functions, but you can also create your own functions so that you can create better programs, basically. And to create your own functions, you can use unnamed anonymous functions called lambda functions, right? So with those, here's an example of a lambda function. Okay. Actually, I should probably first give the general layout or the format. The format of a lambda expression or function, whatever you want to call it. You write lambda, then here you write a list of arguments, right? So let's say I have the arguments x and y. Then you put a colon. Then you put the expression that's going to be returned. Right? So within these lambda functions, you can't write multiple lines of code. You're just writing one expression. This can be like x is less than y, x plus y, x times y, something like that, or x mod y. Something that involves the parameters that were passed. They don't have to involve them, but it makes sense to involve them because why would they be there in the first place? So let's say I have like this lambda function that just adds things. If I wanted to, I can even assign it to some variable. So let's say I have like f is equal to lambda x plus y. And then if I say print f, and then I pass in 2 and 3, this is going to print 5, right? Because the 2 went into the x and the 3 went into the y, and it printed x plus y, so it's 2 plus 3, and that's 5. Okay. And so that's just a quick introduction to lambda functions. They aren't anything crazy. And so with these key functions, as you can see, we assigned the lambda function itself to some variable. You can do the same with the key parameter, where you can pass in a lambda to the key. So let's say I wanted to, let's say I have some list called L, and let's say, let's say I have 1, 3, -1, 2, 4. And I'm about to give an unrealistic example, but this is just for example's sake. Let's say I wanted, for some odd reason, no one knows why, I wanted to sort based on whatever the result would be if I multiply the numbers by 100. Right? So let's say for each value I wanted to multiply the values by 100. We aren't going to be comparing them by 1, 3, -1, 2, and 4. We're going to be comparing them by 100, 300, -100, 200, and 400. So we can just create some lambda function, right, where it passes in the value that we have, and we just return that value times 100. Okay, so it would look something like this. If I say print sorted, we're sorting L, and the key is a lambda function. So key is equal to lambda. We pass in the parameter. That could be any name. It doesn't have to be anything specific. We put our colon. And then let's say x times 100. Okay. And then that'll make it so that anytime we're doing a comparison between the values, we're not going to compare by the value itself. We're going to compare by the value times 100. Okay. And this will work. Obviously, this isn't like a, this isn't something that would be used. I don't see why someone would sort like this or sort for that reason. But this is just an example of lambda functions. Okay. A better example are when you're sorting tuples dictionaries and want to sort by a specific index in the tuple or the value in the dictionary for the key. Example, D is A5, B20, C0, sorted D keys equal to lambda, X D's, wait, yeah, pretty much. He gave an example like that with tuples in the reading, where let's say you have like some list of tuples that are like students. Let's say list, and let's say we have a list of tuples. Their name is like John, and let's say that their second or the first index is like their ID. So let's say we have like 10. We have Safwan. His ID is like 5. Let's say there's me. My ID is like 12, right? So we have this list, but let's say that I want to sort this list based on the student's ID number in ascending order. To do this, I would say print sorted, pass in the students, and then give a lambda function. So key is equal to, key is equal to lambda, student. You don't have to put student, you can put like X or whatever. And then we're going to sort based on their first index. So we could say student of 1. And this works too. Right, so the result of that would be a list containing Safwan 5, John 10, Justin 12. If I wanted it reverse order, I could do that too by just saying reverse is equal to true. That would give me a list containing Justin 12, John 10, Safwan 5. Okay. Or if you're sorting objects, you could sort by property of the object. Yep. Pretty much. Okay.
So the key basically just like it basically is the sorting like condition, or like what does it do exactly? Sorry, I wasn't here because my dad was calling me.
It's just sorry. Oh, let me move my chair. It's just a way to sort on some other attribute rather than the value itself, right? So it just passes the value that's within the list into that function, and then you are presented with some other value, and you want to sort based on that value rather than the value itself. Better example would be like over here, let's say with the absolute function, where we pass in the absolute function. So rather than sorting on like 4, -1, 2, -2, 3, 12, and -6, we're sorting based on 4, 1, 2, 3, 12, 6, right? And then the resulting list is -1, -2, 3, 4, -6, 12, because it read -1, -2, and -6 as 1, 2, and 6, rather than their negative values.
Okay, got you.
Right. So student 0 will be John or Justin goes first. Well, O comes before you, so John would come first. Okay. All right. So that's pretty much it about lambda functions. What time is it right now? It's already 11:30. So let's take like a 10-minute break. After the 10-minute break, we'll go over list comprehensions, and then we'll also go over like, because I know this probably might show up like 3 times, like, brackets or things like that, and like trying to understand or being able to read that and see like what the output would be. Okay, so we'll come back at like 11:45. Okay. All right. Be back at 11:45.